The word body shame and body dysmorphia didn't exist back in the early 70s. They invented it. Yes, my mother and my Southern grandmother invented body shaming when I was 4 years old. Write this one down. If you come back, today is as hard as it's ever gonna be, because the next time you do it, it's gonna be just a little bit. Part one, on pictures of my childhood, I was not fat. My pediatrician thought otherwise. 4 years old, he put me on my first diet. My Southern mother and grandmother, oh, they dove right in. And I became the redheaded Southern Belle stepchild. That was the embarrassment to them because I was not petite. And that continued until my early 20s when I rebelled. I'm 57 years old and I've been on a diet since I was four years old. Mother took me to the pediatrician. It was probably just a regular checkup, and he told her I was in whatever percentile and I needed to lose weight, and she had no idea how to get a child to lose weight. So his advice was limit my consumption of bread to 2 slices a day. So my grandmother, my Southern grandmother, and my Southern mother leapt onto that. Now, I was given that diagnosis, and my older sister was not that dissimilar from me in body type. My younger sisters were petite and precious. They were identical twins. Anyway, so they launched right into slimming me and my older sister down. We would be given pears canned with sugar twin, which was the artificial sweetener of choice back then, with cottage cheese for dessert, while everybody else at the table were having these 4-layer Italian cream cakes or chocolate cakes or cherry crunch cake, whatever. We weren't allowed to have it. Were we resentful? Yes, we were. We would be given special things for our Southern dinners, like boiled squash and onions and greens with fat back, because as long as it didn't have sugar or bread in it, it was okay. Anyway, so very long story short of the childhood, that was the generation where you had to finish everything on your plate regardless. The nutritional benefit and content of what was on your plate was not taken into consideration. It was, if it wasn't bread and it wasn't sugar, then it was fine. Now, this is also the time when diabetes was called sugar diabetes, because the common mistaken understanding is that sugar was the only thing a diabetic couldn't have. It wasn't grits, it wasn't flour, it wasn't everything else that we know today is a carbohydrate. Back then it was just sugar and bread. And that was only because my pediatrician told him to take me off bread. All right, so let's move into the high school years. I started putting on weight. After I got out of high school, I got an apartment and with some people from high school, and yeah, I would say I went a little crazy. I rebelled a bit. And part of that rebellion was I don't have to do what anybody tells me to do. I can eat what I want to eat. Well, that lasted about as long as the social pressures began to bear down. And I went on my first professional diet, which was a program back then called Physicians Weight Loss. And yeah, I got down from, I don't know, 180 pounds down to about 120 pounds. Yeah, that was great, but it was a pre-packaged, pre-programmed, and they didn't diet and they didn't teach you how to sustain this. They want you to sign up for their maintenance program. All right, so the weight came back on. I dated, met the man I eventually married. We'll call him my starter husband, and knew through the dating years before we got married that this wasn't the perfect fit. But you know, what else was I gonna do? All my sisters were already married. I was trying not to be the typical Southern girl out of high school, married by the time I was 20, starting to pop out babies. No, I decided I was gonna wait till I was 25. So guess how old I was when I got married? 25. But prior to marriage, I had begun putting on weight, because by the time I married at 25, I was probably over 300 pounds. I was eating my feelings of all sorts of things, but bless his heart, he married me anyway. He was a few years younger, and it did not play in our favor for the longevity of our marriage. Okay, so I won't give you all the bits and pieces of what did and did not go wrong or right in that marriage, but I will tell you on Valentine's Day of 1998, 7, somewhere in there, he came home and told me that he'd been having an affair. They'd been going on for almost a year, and He was leaving me for her. Now, I'm 350 over, and I say 350 because I had had a doctor's appointment at some point around then. And turns out their scale would only weigh you up to 350 pounds, and I topped it out. And they figured, well, she can't be that much more. We'll just put down 350. I was more than 350. So with the awareness that my marriage would or would not survive, I knew at that point I was grotesquely overweight, horrendously unhappy, facing the possibility of divorcing and being single, and didn't like myself very much. So I had to feel better about myself regardless of what happened to our marriage. So I got myself up. I went to the community center on a Saturday morning. The only workout clothes I had, now this is, I'm 29. I'm 29 at that point. So yeah, I'm 29, and I hadn't done a lick of physical exertion since I was probably 14 years old. So walked into a step aerobics class. There was about, 15, 20 people. It really wasn't a lot of people for the size of the room. I was welcomed. Of course, I took a spot in the back, and I just started moving my body, trying to follow along. I was not a smoker at that time. I had given up smoking about a year before I got laid off from my job, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a financial reason more than a health reason. But I had stopped smoking, but I was still grotesquely overweight. So I was doing some of the moves, but oh my God, my heart was racing. I thought I was gonna pass out. I started walking off the floor to go to the chairs that lined the wall to sit down, and this incredibly fit older gentleman, by older, I mean he was probably in his 40s or 50s at that point, he comes shimmying over to me, he says, ma'am, he goes, just march in place, don't sit down, your heart rate's racing. If you sit down, you're probably going to feel like you're going to pass out or you're going to throw up. So just march in place till your heart rate comes down, and then try to do a little bit more. And if you keep coming back, now these next words I have repeated to new people. I tell myself this with so many things I start in life, so write this one down. If you come back, today is as hard as it's ever going to be. Words to live by. All right, so I started working out. It was a stress reliever. I would leave there some days with the endorphins racing. The more I worked out, the more weight I lost, the fitter I got, and those endorphins, which I don't think I'd ever felt before in my life, would kick in, and I would bawl on the way to the car. All of the emotions going through me with what was happening in my life with my marriage. At this point, we were in counseling trying to put it back together, but I didn't have faith it was going to happen. Okay, so the marriage ended anyway. And with the ending of the marriage, I picked back up smoking. At the point where I knew it was done, it's like, I'll show you. Oh yeah, I immediately jumped back in to 2 packs a day. That was amazing. This was also when cigarettes were much more affordable. So I went off to live my life as a single woman and ended up landing in Houston, Texas. And I started dating like a man. I won't go into details, but by the time I got to Houston, I had dated myself across the Southeast, and I was exhausted. So when I got to Houston, got settled in, my sisters were having another crop of babies. I already had 3 nieces of stair-stepped ages from like maybe 3 to 12, I think at that point. So I ended up with 7 total. And I got so busy being crazy and fun Aunt Jenny and loving on these kids and setting the example that you don't have to get married, you don't have to have a man, you can live independently. I didn't realize I was having that influence on the kids. That's a whole nother line of videos as far as being a great aunt. But they were my focus for a long time. They were my why of why I continued to make healthier choices, although that was quite the season of excessive smoking. I was putting on some weight. I was not controlling my diabetes the way I should, and all of that was going to come home to roost very soon.